Alright, today time for a different video, a track breakdown. I will go through all the layers of the track Broken from the album Idol, which you can find on Bandcamp, I will link it down below, and explain how I made this track. So before we get into all the different layers, I will play a little bit of the chorus of the track. So this is the Ableton live session of this track. The track is written in C major and is 3 minutes 18 seconds long, and it contains 24 different layers of sounds, as you can see here. There are two groups, so that's why it says 26, and the last track is my voiceover. So the first part are drums in green, then purple, the bass, synths. Then there are many layers of other synths, both the Sequential Prophet Rev 2 and the Minilogue XD I used. And then here in green there is some Rhodes, some other synths, and finally 4 layers of textures. So let's start at the top and break down this track. So if you only play the drums, it sounds like this. So in the main part there are 3 different parts of drums, starting with a double kick drum, or 2 different kick drums. So if you take the effects off, then you just hear 2 dry kick drums. So what I did here is first I did a reverb and then a fuzz. And some bitrate reduction. So just to go back to the overview of the track, the idea was to create some kind of cinematic drums focused track where I don't repeat too many of the bits, but a more true composed kind of song. So that's why there's a lot of different synth layers that only appear once or twice and don't get repeated. And in order to make it more cinematic, I didn't want to have the traditional kick, snare, hi-hat, and therefore I used 2 kick drums with a lot of effects on it to create a high energy pounding kind of backbeat. Then on top of that, there is the shaker with some delay. And some of the shaker hits are reversed, the purple ones are reversed. So I just put the audio clips onto, instead of using a drum rack, I just put them on an audio track so you can mess around with them easier. And then with the delay it sounds like this. You can see that the right channel of the delay is also delayed, so that's why in that way you get a more wider stereo image. Together with the drums. And then the third element is the ride cymbal. Also with a lot of effects. So without the effects it sounds like this. Very simple, but now there's a grain delay on it and a tremolo and a pen. So with just a grain delay. And then in the beginning there's actually also a ride and a crash cymbal, a different one. Without any effects. So together with the drums it sounds like this. And And that's basically all the drums. The second part, it's only the kick and then the kick and the shaker. So also the rides only appear once in this track. So the drums are pretty basic. So moving on to the bass, there are two synth basses. They're both from the Sequential Prophet Rev 2 analog synth. The first one is this. There are two notes, one played high up the keyboard and one low for the actual bass. And then there's some automation. In the break part there's a tremolo. So that's this red line, the tremolo device gets enabled. And that brings in the second bass, which is kind of a drone. That's also the beginning, so it gets repeated twice. So the bass is very monotone and simple. There's not a very clear melody, but that works really well with the drums. So together with the drums, it sounds like this. At the ending of the song, the bass, only the high part gets repeated with the tremolo on. So that's it for the bass. Now going to the main part of this track, and it's all the different synth layers. So as you can see, it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 different synth sounds. So let's start at the top with this one. Yep. So there are simple notes with a filter delay. So without the delay, it sounds like this. But then with the delay, it makes it wide and spatial. Sounds almost like an arpeggio. Then in the intro there's a little rhythmic texture. So I probably use the 80s SAR envelope and turn the sustain all the way down and the decay also almost all the way down, so you only have the little click left. And then it sounds like this, and then with some reverb and delay on it. Or two different delays even. Make it a nice rhythm. Then there's this bell-like D, it says. Without effects, it sounds like this. So it's reversed. Very neat and short sound. But then also with delay and some erosion noise. So a lot of small sounds that make up the bigger sound. Alright, moving on to the next sound, which is another small sound. Kind of like a transition sound, and then there's this noise. Then in the second part there's an actual arpeggiator. quite straightforward. To go back to the noise sound, there is several effects on it, most notably the spectral blur, and there's also some automation of these parameters. Then moving to this sound, in the part 3 of the song, a lot of effects. So if I take the effects off, it sounds very simple again. But there's a reverb and 2 delays on it, similar as it was in the beginning here. For this one, yeah. And then underneath that, there's a more rhythmic sound. So it says init patch. So it is just the initial patch of the Rev 2 playing in E, a low E, and then actually using a high pass EQ and delay that's modulated with an LFO and an EQ, a tremolo, and an autopan to create this from it. Basically playing a low E and then filtering out all the lows. So in this sound, there's a lot of stereo moving from left to right. And underneath those two sounds, there's another sound, which is this one. Kind of a noisy drone. So without the effects, it sounds like this. Just an oscillator with a noise oscillator combined. But then with a low pass, no, a high pass, tremolo, delay, reverb. And all 3 sounds combined. You can already hear the rhythm of the track, like the movement. Yeah, this one, the dark blue, is from the Minilogue XD actually. And then there's one more sound from the Minilogue XD, which is a kind of a transition. And then in the ending of the song, there is a bit that I improvised using the plus pedal from Gamechanger audio to freeze the sound and then play on top of it. And from this improvisation, which lasts longer, I just took a bit and put that in the outro, so it sounds like this. This was not a planned part, I just started improvising, and then I thought this could be nice as the ending of a song where it just gets a bit out of control. And then it's layered with this other sound. That has also a lot of filtering, so it's basically bandpass filtering and then another filter delay. So if I enable now all the synth layers and play also the drums and the bass, then it sounds like this. Oh yeah, I missed one layer. That's this one. Is actually quite important. It's also with the Minilogue XD, and it's a G that's frozen with a large reverb, so it sounds like a brass step almost. And that really enhances in the beginning the drums as well. break, the rhythmic texture here, and the reverse bell sound, and these 3 layers of with the noise oscillator. Ending part, improvisation. So that's all the synth parts. Let's continue now and look at the 2 Kontakt instruments that I used. So the first one is this one. Oh, it's actually not, it says Rhodes, but it's not. It's Retro Machines Rhodey bass split preset. So without the distortion, sounds like this. Very mellow. And I doubled this layer with the metallic lead from Retro Machines with a tremolo. It's actually played an octave lower, but it sounds higher. So together it sounds like this. Sounds very high, but together with the rest it's pretty okay. So I like to do that to double certain layers, an octave higher or lower, and then pan it. So this one's panned to the left quite a lot, and this to the right. So you really fill out the frequency spectrum, but also the width. And then we get to the last 4 layers, and it says all Rode, or the first 3 at least. So I use the Rode NTG4 shotgun microphone to record these layers, and they're basically just textures to fill up the space. So the first one is this one, just the intro sound. So without effects, it doesn't say what it is, but I probably had an object or that I scratched or rubbed or somehow. So then with the effects, so there's a low, a high pass, a fuzz, a tremolo, a delay, a reverb. The second one is then with effects. So it's on its own, these sounds are pretty abstract and kind of weird, but together with everything else it kind of works. And then this one says beatbox. It's not really a beatbox, but I'm making sounds with my mouth somehow. So without the effects it sounds like this. It's pitched down as well. And I put them on the grid. And then with a bit of EQ and delay, you get a bit of a rhythmic texture. And then the last sound is a flute turned ethereal breathing pad. So I recorded some kind of flute sound. Put it into simpler and put effects on it. So without the effects, it sounds like this. With effects, it's much better. I actually play chords with it even. If you hear this in the context. It's very much in the background. This sound is pretty audible. It's pitched down. Okay, so the regular sound is pitched down a lot. And then here it's only pitched down 1 octave. So yeah, that's all the different layers of this track. And now let's talk about the arrangement. So as you can see, that one of the things that is repeated throughout the track is the simple bass line, but a lot of the other parts and the kick, but a lot of other parts only appear once or twice. So there's an intro, then there's basically a main part, a bridge, and then the main part 2. Then there is where it says no drums is another type of bridge. And then you get into part 3 where you have all the synth parts from part 1 and 2 are not being repeated, and you have a whole new synth elements being brought in here. And then there's the ending of the song, which the drums go away and there's this improv part that already starts a bit before and continues. And the same with the textures. The textures don't repeat in part 3, not all of them at least. And then the flute makes the entrance. So it's a pretty kind of chaotic and diverse arrangement that sometimes happens. There's also some automation. You can see the red lines here of different effects. Not a whole lot of automation in this track, to be honest, and that's probably because there's so many different parts that don't repeat, so you don't have to, if you have one part that's repeating all the time, you need to make it more interesting. But now, since there's so many little elements, there's less need for automation. It has a lot of effects, but they're kind of static throughout the arrangement. So that was it for this track breakdown. Hopefully this is somehow useful or inspiring to you. I will play the whole track now. You can also find it on Bandcamp, also on YouTube. I will put the links down below. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next one.